There you go.
I want to welcome everyone to our April board meeting. We have the pleasure of having one of our high school students with us tonight to lead us in prayer and also open us in prayer and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Jacob Wards.
Will y'all bow y'all's heads? Dear God, I pray that the first strand of COVID will pass over us and the second strand will soon pass shortly after. And that everyone in the school and board will be safe from harm or protected if harm does come. And that no one gets hurt too bad. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, will y'all stand to the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Next on our agenda, we have the consent items. Consisting of our agenda, the minutes of the March 9th meeting, and one policy for revision, the IGB Student Support Team Response to Intervention.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the last meeting and the
All
policy
the, all the consent items.
all
Alright.
consent items as well.
We have a motion to accept the consent items by Ms. Barksdale.
I'll say.
We have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we had no one sign up for public participation, so we're going to move on to our financials.
All right.
Ms. Bufford.
Well, as you can see, we are at the end of March. 75% of our fiscal year complete. We are looking at 98.32%, percent of our property taxes collected, so we're in very good shape on our property taxes. Our revenues as a whole are high at 84.52%, so that is good. Out of 11.7 revenues, we collected 9.9, so we're doing quite well on our revenues. On the expenditure side, we're also doing well. We've only spent 69.61% instead of the 75%, so we're holding our expenditures in line in total. And our cash in the bank is about 4.1 million. Our fund equity is about 3.2 million, so it's actually increased a little bit since last month due to those taxes. So that's a good thing. Everything is looking good on our general fund. And you can see that's just the summary with the revenues and expenditures showing that we're at that 3.2 million mark in the fund balance. Our SPLOST is also looking good. We had another good month, 61,674.46 on our SPLOST. And if you remember last month, I made the remark that it looked like after 9 months we were going to hit our budget of 600,000. We missed it by a little less than 1,000. But it's very close to being that 600,000 figure there for the year, so already. And so we are doing quite well with the SPLOST. Hopefully it's going to continue to stay up like that. I hope, whatever it's due to, whether it's online sales or in-county sales, that it's certainly helping Lincoln County. So that's a good thing. On our summary, you can see we did make the payment on March 31st that was due April 1st. They like to get it to the bank a day early. So I went ahead and made those wire transfers out of the SPLOST fund. We paid the interest, the $401,862.50, which combined with the what we paid in October, that's where you come up with the $803,725 there. That left about $169,000 in the SPLOST account. In the bond tax, we paid the $740,000 of principal. That left about $335,000 in the bond tax account. So we still have about $500,000. So we have enough to go ahead and pay that October payment. and are working now towards that April 1st payment for next year, which would be approximately, that'll be slightly different, but approximately that same amount, somewhere around the 1.1 million for next year. So, so everything on that is looking good. The capital projects is the same. We're still holding that money in case we need it for a project, so we haven't identified any at this point. Wanted to give you a little update on the budget discussions, that actually this changed from the time that I sent this out. We don't have the official QBE allotment sheets yet. Dr. White, do you have your sheet with you? Okay. We don't have the official QBE allotment sheets, but we do have an estimate from the state of what it will be. So I added that into this, which I did not have when I sent out that first sheet. So what I did, this is just for discussion purposes. Obviously, we're nowhere ready to give you a full budget or anything, but these are just some of the things that we like to do to show how we've changed from last year's. If you remember last month, I asked you to approve an amended budget, and it was showing that we were going to spend about 1.2 million of our fund balance, that we would have more in expenditures than revenues. So this is taking that figure and saying how it might change for 22 to see what it might look like for 22. So the first thing we've got is the increase in QBE earnings, and that's you can see on this sheet is 0, but on the one you have, it's 377,975, and that is again an estimate. We don't have the official amount from the state, but that is what we're looking at. So that is a great thing, and Dr. Light and I looked at it, and it's just a combination of several factors. We got more equalization, which 2 years ago we weren't even getting equalization. Now we're getting 200-something thousand of it. Our local fair share went down. Seems like there was another figure that was fairly big, but so it's just a combination of factors there. It's not one particular thing that made it go up like
Ms.
that.
Buff, can you explain in layman terms what equalization is?
No, not really. There is no layman term for that. The state tries to equalize the things that they send out to the counties as far as your taxing authority and what land you have and those kind of things. Then they have a really complicated formula where they determine what counties are valued at versus the number of students in the county. And for a long time, they were saying we were wealthy just because we had lower number of students, even though our property was not valued that high, but we didn't hit the mark. You have to be, I want to say 75%, I can't remember, but there's a mark that they say you have to be above or below to get equalization. Last year, we were, for whatever reason, it changed, and we were in that mark. Now, whether they changed the formula or whether we actually changed something, I don't know. We've not really changed our tax rate in the last 5 years. Our tax base has not changed, and I don't think our student population has changed that much. So,
But it is where they've always referred to us as a wealthy county.
yes,
And that kept us from getting it. Now they're giving us some.
and now
at
we're
least.
a little bit lower on the totem pole. Yeah, it was very frustrating because counties like, I can't remember which one it is, DeKalb, I believe, was considered a low wealth county, and we were considered a high wealth, and there's just no way. But based on the formula, but now we are
And then
getting
the counties
some.
around us were getting some of it too. At the same, from what I remember in the past, like Thompson and Washington,
Right.
were getting it.
So, yeah, so we're back in the formula for whatever reason, and it did go up again for 21, which is a great thing. I mean, I think we'd have to look back at that QBE, and I give you that QBE comparison through the years. I want to say, wasn't it up like 500,000 or 600,000 at one time, Dr. Light, the equalization? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were really getting a lot. So hopefully that will continue to build. That'd be great. But at any rate, QBE is going up, and so that's a good thing because that is our state earnings for the students. The CARES Act, we're going to go over a little bit in more detail in a minute, but that is the federal money, and this is the the CARES Act 1 that we paid for, if you remember, we took 3.75% of our teachers, put that in federal money to help us save money this year in our general fund. All that is because TRS went up, I just said, if we continue to put that amount in the federal money, we'll save $1,300. So that's not a big deal, but that's the TRS increase. You'll see a little later the actual increase that it cost us. I increased the property taxes. That's just to match what we passed last year. When we set the property tax rate, it's usually around August or September. When I budget 96% of that, and that generally gives us a good idea of how much we're going to collect. Because you know you're not going to collect 100% because we're paying the tax commissioner 2.5%. No way we'd have 100, but I mean unless you're just collecting from previous years, you know. But so I just 96% has been consistently through the years a good estimate of how much. So I took 96% of what we passed on the digest last fall and used that for next year. I increased the intangible and real estate taxes. Those have just been higher in the last couple of years. And so I added a little bit in the budget to that. I took off some on other local revenue. We have had $3,000 in other local revenue for many years, and we very rarely collect that. So I just felt like it didn't need to be there. I left $500 in there. Just that's for things like copies and transcripts and maybe some bus tires that we sell or something like that, but very minimal collections there. I took out the impact aid, as I usually do. Then I gave everybody in the system, the ones that are on the salary scales, an increase of 1 year's experience. So that's going to be about $111,000 there that will cost us by giving those at that extra year. Our TRS percentage is going from 19.06 to 19.81%. That's going to be about 54,000. We got about 12 teachers that say they're going to be completing a certificate upgrade, and that bumps them up on the scale, so we have to give them a little extra money. So that will be the cost of that plus their benefits. I didn't know about any employee replacements yet, so that's one that we'll look at in the future. Adjusted the grants that I know already. There are very few that we know actually at this point, but tried to adjust those. I took out, which added to, the Chromebooks that we put in this year that we paid for with our impact aid money. And then I went to all the department heads and asked what changes they needed, and that netted out to about $15,000 increase in that fund balance. So altogether, it looks like right now, obviously there's still a lot of changes to be made, but right now, we would wind up taking about $1 million out of the fund balance. And if we estimate that going to be around $2 million at the end of June, then we'd have close to $1 million at the end of 22. And if you remember, in our original 21 budget, we were taking out $1.5 million and ending up with $700,000. So we look like our budget this year, barring some major change, may be in a little better shape than the 22, than what we started in the 21. Any questions? I know everything's really rough because it's just estimates at this point, but we just wanted to let you know kind of how we were standing and what we were working on.
Any questions on what she's already gone over?
I have a question, but it's not about that. I guess we can wait till then. You got some more to go over?
It's just
You
the
got the
CARES Act stuff.
Okay, I'll wait till after that.
Okay. All right. So we've got one more page, and I want to just kind of give you an update on the CARES Act. I know you're hearing a lot about that in the news, and just kind of let you know what all we were already committed to and what we were planning on. So right now there are technically 3 CARES Act, so we're calling it CARES 1, 2, and 3. And it's easy to remember when they expire because they expire on their year. So CARES 1 actually expires on September 21st, but then you have another year to spend it, even though it technically expires on the 21st. CARES, and that amount is the $275,984. Now we budgeted that for FY21 and put 3.75 fine arts teachers in there with salaries and benefits. That's your question?
No, ma'am. You gotta slow down just a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so you said start over again about the CARES one.
Yes.
It
So that's
ends
the
when?
first one that was passed.
It ends when?
It ends September 21st, but September of '21.
Okay.
But
And we
in
got
each-
another year to spend that.
But in each one, you've got an extra year to spend it. So
Okay.
technically, it goes through '22. Now, we will have that one spent in '21 because we're
Okay.
using it for those teachers.
Okay.
So that one, won't be any question, that one will be complete in '21.
Okay, so my next question, you're probably gonna go ahead and tell me this, but the CARES 2 and 3, is that gonna be in successful succession years after?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I was saying it was easy to remember when they expire,
Okay.
because it's CARES 2 is '22
Okay,
and CARES 3 is '23. But
Okay.
each one has an extra year on it. So,
okay, good. That's really
And the
good.
CARES 1, well, each one of these, what we have to do is submit a budget to the state and the feds, and they go through all their people. It's like a 5-person process to get all of it approved. But once they approve it, then I do monthly drawdowns. So each month, when we make once we pay the payroll, then I draw that down to reimburse us the amount for those people. So that goes in a separate fund that we have had to set up all kinds of new account numbers with funds and program codes, and it's been quite a challenge. But anyway, so that's how that money has been spent. And it, like I said, it will be complete by the end of, by September 21. So that one, we have no remaining amount in that. We budgeted it, we'll be spending it, no question on that one. So then they passed CARES 2. And we got 1,110,533 million. Well, 1,110,533. That one expires on 9/22, but again, you got a year. So we haven't finalized the budget on that. We have things that we are spending out of it because we know they are eligible, and then things that we are proposing. So obviously, the first thing is anything with PP&E, maintenance, disinfecting supplies, anything that goes toward disinfecting the school, making it safer for the students. So we've estimated the cost of that for '21 and '22. We have gotten a quote from School Nutrition on the excess cost to them because we are having to individualize each package for the students. You know, everything's in individual serving cups. They can't eat breakfast in the lunchroom. They're taking it back to the classroom, so they've had to have things for that. They're using, I think, plastic forks and spoons for everything. Everything is sanitary, and so they can individualize it to the students. So that's the excess cost related to that. We've had some air conditioning units that have already given out that we have had to be replacing some of the individual units. That is an acceptable expenditure because of the air quality, and you're increasing the air quality for the students. We have in the budget, we've not purchased them yet, but when we amended the budget, we were buying Chromebooks, and Impact Aid didn't quite cover all of that, so we put the additional part in the federal grant. And then next year's FY22, that's the $204,000. This year it's the elementary and middle school. Next year it's the high school, CTAE, and then the extra ones like y'all's Chromebooks will probably be replaced. So any of those would be in there. And then we are proposing for FY22 that we keep those teachers in there that we had in there from '21. And the reason I'm proposing that is because we still, on our QBE, even though the state gave us back part of that reduction that they put back in, they didn't give us all of it. We still got about $279,000. And that's basically what I've got there. So that would help to cover that and make up for that QBE deficiency that they're still cutting us. And we're hoping by the FY23 they won't be cutting us, and then we won't need that. But that's what we're looking at there. So if you add up the things that we know we would like to put in there, that's $829,546. That leaves us at $280,000, $987 out of that grant that's still available for discussion. And then we have CARES 3, which is actually the ARP, and I can't remember, something, American Recovery Protection or something like that act. And we're gonna get $2,494,100 from that act. Now, the way I understood it, I listened to a webinar last Thursday, and the way I understood that was we're going to get part of that allocated to us now from the state, and then the rest will be later, and they didn't really say how much later, but later in the year apparently. So right now we can use the 1.6 million that we can go ahead and budget and be using. So the only thing we have actually proposed in that, and I think Dr. Light's going to be talking to you a little bit later about this, is 3, and I call them instructional coaches. I think you call them intervention specialists, Dr. Light. But one at each school, and that would be, and this is a very rough estimate because I don't know anything about who they are. I just took a top of the chart teacher and with benefits, and roughly said, you know, that would be about $300,000 for each year to cover those, and that would leave us $1,894,000 in that grant that we could still have to use. 20% of the grant of the ARP, the CARES 3, has to be spent on instruction type things of lost learning, I believe is how they're saying it. And so we feel like those intervention specialists will help with that. And like I said, Dr. Light will be explaining that to you more, but that was one way we thought that we could take care of that 20%. The other possibilities that we want to consider for the either the CARES 2, that $280,000, or the ARP. And these are very rough estimates. We don't know how much all of this will be. These are just figures that our maintenance director has helped us get up. A lot of this, we've done checking into it, but anything to do with making it cleaner or easier to disinfect that is acceptable for this. Anything to do with air quality, anything to do with making the schools safer for the kids. So at the elementary school, we're looking at the iView program. That's $110,000. The repair to, or I guess replacement of the gym floor, $70,000. There's a classroom floor that needs replacing. That's $3,800. The classrooms in the back of the gym, $20,000. The halls, putting the Texas granite in those, $80,000. And then the units at the elementary school and the high school, air conditioning units, is $900,000. Now that is actually what we had been looking at for possibly using our state facility money for. But if we can use this grant for that, then we could save that facility money and have it for a roof or, you know, some other problem that we might have that's a big expenditure like that, because you can just keep accumulating that money. It does not go away if you don't use it. So there's no problem with that. At the middle school and the elementary school, we get floor scrubbers for the ride-on floor scrubbers. I think we have one unit at the high school now, but not at the other two. That'd be $14,700. The high school terrazzo floor, if we can get that repaired, $20,000. Putting new carpet in the band room, $9,300, and the lunchroom floor in $50,000. And again, these are very rough estimates. We have not got quotes on all of this stuff. This is just, you know, trying to get an idea of things that we can do that we know may need doing to make things safer. And that's about 1.2 million out of that 2.1. So you can see we haven't accounted for all of that by any means, but these are things that we are thinking about.
Purpose with the air conditioners, we got told very early in this event that anything dealing with AC to improve air quality or even heat to improve air quality is part of these CARES Act. You can legally spend it on those things. Anything dealing with cleaning supplies, etc., are there. I actually wrote an email to Matt Cardoza, who has been giving us all of this information on the CARES Act, and asked him in regards to floors, because we're all aware that the elementary school could use some new floors and new flooring. And he said, definitely, if it's an issue that will help you clean the floors. Well, obviously, if you replace the floors, they're gonna be a whole lot easier to clean than some of the floors that are over there. So I got that in writing, I have it saved, so we can obviously replace floors. We made recommendations based on trying to improve the facility and the amount that we have spent on COVID based on protecting the kids. So that's where these recommendations are all coming from.
Based on what you said, now, this doesn't have to be spent until a year after September 2023?
Correct.
The third CARES 3?
The CARES 3 part, yeah.
And we would have about
That'd be
900,000 that's not even asked for.
That's 24 then. Right.
Obviously, they want you to do it earlier because they want it to get to the schools and, you know, to the kids as quickly as possible. But technically, you have a year after that.
So I have a question. So in the CARES 2, we already have 130,000 allotted for AC units.
Yes.
Is that any specific units or
Yes.
is that
Those
is
are
already,
specific-
that's specific units
Right.
already?
Those are specific units that have already gone out that we've had to replace or repair already, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So the 900 on the CARES 3 as a possibility would be replacing the others.
right, which would be the major rooftop units over here at the high school that are so expensive, you bring in a crane, et cetera. And had talked about doing that anyway through the state money that Ms. Kay had brought up. But if we don't touch that state money, it continues to grow. If we do touch it, you can't touch it again for 10 years.
Okay.
So if possible, if we can use this, then that keeps growing and we're not waiting another 10 years to touch that, whether we need a new roof, whether we need a new whatever. That money is there and growing.
I got another question, but it's the next topic.
The next what? On the agenda or?
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
the agenda, which would tie into this, I think.
Okay.
Go ahead, let's finish this one first.
Go ahead, Chris.
First of all, wow. I mean, Ms. Buffer, where's all this money coming from? Just coming out of the...
It's coming from your
Tax
great
dollars.
grandkids.
Okay.
Your great grandkids.
Santa
Yes, federal money.
Okay, so my question is it possible for us to add additional funds in the capital fund budget and let it grow for a future project? I mean,
Now, you're talking about our local capital, or are you talking about the facility funds I was talking about from the state?
I'm talking about if we choose to do a project, you know,
With this money.
with any money, I mean,
This money has to be spent, because we have to
Right.
account for it and say, this is how we spend it. So we can't say we're gonna set it aside and 10 years from now we use it for something. It's got to actually be spent.
okay, so what I'm really getting at, is there a way that we can make our local capital funds budget grow since we're getting an infusion of all this other money?
Well, that's what we're trying to do, is trying to say how much of this can we use for facility type things
Right.
and not use our local money or our state money. Each year, we earn money from the state based on what our facility needs are. And that just goes into, they just give us a sheet and say, this is how much you earned this year, and it keeps growing. So if you don't draw it down, then the state just keeps accumulating it for you until such time as you need it. So it's really hard to explain.
So,
But you have to apply for it ahead of time, because what they have to do is sell bonds to get that money for us.
I might not be talking about the same
Well,
thing you're talking
I
about.
think what he's
Can I
referring,
add?
you know, where we have the 52,000 in capital projects.
Right.
Okay,
He's referring to that.
okay.
And I think in a roundabout way, yes, if some of this could be used, but we can't put this particular money into that, but
Well, that's not
This
exactly
money-
what I'm saying, but,
may cover, I think this money could go against some other things that,
yeah. There might be a wish list out there for, say, the athletic director, the principals of every school, and it's nothing to do with anything that you've discussed so far. But you can't buy it with $52,000. We can't do much of anything with $52,000.
Right.
So that's what I'm asking, is there a way to make that, it's, the only thing that's grown is the interest. I hadn't seen us put anything into it, even though we had Corona last year, we didn't really know what the economy was gonna do, but I'd like to see it grow.
Well, we can
So I'm just
definitely,
asking, I'm asking about that.
If we can use this to, well, just for example, those $60,000 and $70,000 up there for the AC units.
Right.
If we had not been able to use this money, that would have come out of our general fund budget.
Right.
So, yeah, it's definitely saving us money that we may in turn be able to use for a capital project. Yeah,
So we can look into that,
we can.
growing that account.
That's important to
She's
you.
roundabout talking about this now. I gotta stick with her, I gotta stick right on her.
the correct answer is yes. We
Okay,
can, and
thank you, Ms. Butler. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Do you want to go to yours, or do you want to wait till the next item?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You probably know the question.
So do we have anything else in regards to the CARES 1, 2, or 3? And none of this is, I mean, this right here that you're seeing is, and we're not approving this one way or the other right now. This is just things that are out there, possibilities that are being shown to us.
Right. The only thing that's actually approved is the CARES
CARES
one.
1.
Yes.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to the course room rooftop unit. Thank you, Ms. Buckman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the HVAC rooftop unit at the, in the chorus room has needed replacing for a while. It's a 7.5 ton rooftop unit, which is extremely heavy, and it must be set by a crane. So the installation and equipment to place it is also part of the cost, which is why this costs so much. Now, part of that 60 and 70,000 would be used to meet this need. As it says, the cost can be paid using the federal CARES $2. We received 3 quotes trying to find the best price, and Pool Heating and Air had the best price, including the crane and the installation so that it's set up and doing all of the right things. Now, this unit we've been babying along and trying to keep going for, I think, 3 years, if not definitely 2. It needs to be replaced. Now that we have this CARES Act 2 money, it's my recommendation that we use it to replace that heating and air conditioning unit before we really need a whole lot of air conditioning in that room.
And now we're back to, now with this, what we saw in CARES 2, now we'd be approving that portion.
That's why I asked, was it already specified, or is this something that just kind of popped up?
This one has been talked about for a long time.
Okay.
This gave us a way to pay for that without compromising his maintenance budget.
Gotcha. That's where I
And
was
if I can
getting.
use federal dollars, I like that a whole lot better than general fund and tax dollars.
Okay.
But now where we said 70,000, is there other smaller units that we're
That
looking
have
to
come out
replace
to
with
that
that
as
too?
well, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
that have already been done, or that were just,
Most of them have been done, yes. And all we're gonna do is take that smaller unit that would be paid for upfront out of, say, his maintenance budget. We just transfer it over to CARES 2 Act, and that money is not spent out of our budget. So it's literally just an accounting transfer, is all it is.
so you have the proposal in front of us. You have a recommendation by the superintendent, and we will have to approve this.
I have a
or
question.
disapprove it.
Mhm.
In looking through all of the quotes and making sure I didn't miss it, but on the quote that we're looking at and possibly entertaining, it has a note on it. It says existing duct may not meet specs as noted on plans because duct was not upgraded at time of install. That is the only quote that has that note on it. If that needs to be upgraded, does this price change, or are they locked in to this price?
They're
Because-
saying that they can do it for this price, and I don't know if they would try to increase it based on that duct or not.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because
sir.
if they were to have to go back and increase that, the other, well,
Well,
one thing, the other quotes don't even mention it that I saw.
Right.
Second off, if they come up and say, yes, we do have to do that, then what is the cost? And we've already approved. So that would be my question. that I would like to know. Because dealing with a 7.5 ton unit, how much are we gonna, if we did?
But we're replacing a 7.5 ton unit
Correct.
too, so, I mean, I'm not HVAC.
I'm not either, but I just saw
Do
that
you do
note.
enough of that? I mean, has the specs changed with,
Well, this building is how old, 10 years old?
10, yes, sir.
Okay, so the duct, you know, obviously it's a problem because he noted it in there and it's gonna be something, I feel like it's gonna be increase in price. And I noticed the same thing in the quote too, so, you know, a 10-year-old unit, it should be a straight swap out. He shouldn't be having to rework the duct work unless he's not using the same unit. He's gonna use a different unit, you know, that won't match up to it exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but that was my question as well, so.
Yeah, that's just what I picked. All the rest of them went and just said that the work would be done per spec. That one had that line item in there with nothing outside it, and that just caught my eye. This is why I would ask that question.
And I don't know, Augusta Chiller, he is a local guy, so I think Augusta Chiller, he lives in.
yes,
in
Russell Scott.
Russell Scott, so. But anyway, I'll be questioning as well, so I don't know how to.
We've used pool for other things, so it's not like they're totally new to us.
So from, I mean, when you're construction that you're in right now, I mean, do you see, is it, I know when you go up in size, the ductwork, usually, I mean, you've got major issues with your airflow. But staying the same size, like I said, unless it's just totally, but our specs should have called for it to be matching up to what we have.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that there was something that caught this gentleman's eye when he saw it. And he
Or
thought might
did
be
it,
an
or
issue.
did he just put it in there to
Yeah.
cover himself?
Yeah, I would just be, you know, we're supposed to watch the money and not micromanage, so I don't know what to tell you, but it is in there, and I would be curious to know before
It's a flag, is what
Yeah.
you're
Yes,
saying.
it is. I mean, it stands out to me as opposed to the way the others are worded, that they're gonna just complete the job
No.
to the specs, and this is my price. And that was the way I took, by reading through all the quotes. So,
And that may be why it's a $4,000 difference in pricing.
exactly.
So, do we want to ask Dr. Light to get his maintenance supervisor to reach out and just find out, is there something that you saw? Do you see this, I mean, is there something, or are you just saying that since you hadn't been up and inspected all of it, that you're covering, is he covering himself, you know, from that standpoint? Any thoughts?
I mean, it says exactly, existing duct may not meet specs as noted on plans because duct was not upgraded at time of install. I mean, it's brand new when it was installed, how could it be?
Well, he's saying, I read that, he's not upgrading the ductwork. When he installs it, he's not upgrading it.
No, it says
No.
because duct was not upgraded at time of install.
It was, like you said, it was brand new. I'm just thinking, he's saying that to cover, that this ductwork is not, he's not doing anything for the ductwork, so if it doesn't meet, quote, the spec that was put out there, and I didn't see the spec, so did it say something about the ductwork? It possibly could have.
We don't have plans, do we? I mean, they're the original plans of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so it
Well,
hasn't been
It's
changed.
kind of confusing what it's saying there.
I mean, it's, like you said, it's definitely something to note, but I'm thinking he probably just put it in there more to cover himself. If our,
Right.
if our quote went out, if our the RFQ went out with those plans that showed the ductwork and everything in it, he may have just trying to be covering himself, saying, hey, this doesn't impact it because I'm not upgrading yet, so if there's an issue with it. But I think you should, I think it should be asked. And
Is it in real need of doing this month?
It is, because we're gonna need a lot more cooling in April and May.
Are they gonna be able to do it during the school? Are they gonna do it on a weekend or what?
We're hoping to do it like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday was what the plan was, or the hope was.
So lead time is 6 weeks.
What'd you say?
It says lead time is 6 weeks from date of work.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, we
supposed to
got
be
it in
to get all of the pieces lined up, get the equipment built, and
Yeah.
So, but
That'd be
based on that, it
until
won't be
then,
done.
this year.
What won't be done during the school year.
Right.
All of them.
all of the summer issue.
4, 5, 6, it'll be June before they do it, so it can sit a month, can't it? Or
Yeah, we just push it into July to get it done.
I'm not opposing going with the company. I would just like clarity on that statement. And if he put it in there, he knows exactly why he put that statement on there, is the way I feel.
Yeah.
So I think it's an easy explanation. I just don't think we
Yeah.
know right now, and I think we need to know.
Is it just?
I would like
He
to
saw
know.
the spec,
Yeah.
and he didn't inspect that, so he's covering himself
Mhm.
from that, or if he sees something, an
Yeah.
issue with it.
He's been working here long enough, he knows that it's not according to the plans when it was installed. So that's probably what it is.
That's not the
As
case.
built, as opposed to, as drawn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we can either need a motion to table it to next month, or we vote on it with and we can put a contingency in that we need a clarification that Dr. Light can provide to us, and go from there.
How would you make that motion? I would ask you. I mean, you got the experience in it.
I really don't have that experience.
I mean, a simple phone call will do it, won't it, tomorrow?
He
I
should.
mean, is there any way we can,
Well, we can approve it based on this amount and clarification on the note.
Right.
And then I can call everybody tomorrow, and if the clarification is acceptable, then we'll move forward. If it's not, and he's giving us an indication of maybe 10,000 to do whatever is in this, causing him to write this note, then we'll back up and punt and bring it back in May.
put that in a motion, Jason?
All right,
Well, I
So it needs to not-
think if it's going to be any different amount,
Right.
any,
That's right.
I want to re-clarify that. If the amount that he's proposing of 42,590 is not going to be the full job with everything complete, then we come back at the next meeting with a full quote. Because to me, it's not fair for these other two companies if he's not giving us a full, all out, top to bottom, it's done, complete.
sounds good.
That would be what I would like to see.
Okay. So I make a motion that we accept the superintendent's proposal, a recommendation of pool heating for the replacement of the chorus room rooftop unit, as long as he clarifies that he will be able to do it for the $42,590 that he did.
For the scope of work.
Hmm?
For the scope of work.
Did first scope.
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Hyden. Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Next on the agenda is the intervention and instructional specialist.
Back on March 18th, we started talking about, the leadership team and I started talking about this opportunity once this American Rescue Plan Act started coming out with an identification of the 20%. We started talking about how we could best spend that. Then we met face to face on March 23rd again and started discussing what would be the best use of that 20%. And as we continued to talk about it, the intervention and instructional specialist continued to come up as our answer. And needing one at each school, not needing one at just a school, but at all 3 schools, and providing that position to focus on reading. Without being able to read, without improving your reading, it is very difficult to do any other subject, obviously. So reading is the major focus. We also discussed the necessary additional days of 10 days, which would make this position a 200-day position, as opposed to a 190-day position, which is what our teachers' positions are. It is funded with federal funds. Those funds will be exhausted in 2 years, so that position would go away in 2 years. Now, if the board decides that they want to maintain that with local funds, then we can do that. That option's there, but there was no guarantee. And as we discussed what is the anticipated gain, we discussed improving reading proficiency and an increase in Lexile scores. As I talked to all of the board members individually, they all thought it was a very good idea. I'm recommending for the official vote in a board meeting, in a public meeting, that we create 3 intervention and instructional specialist positions funded with federal dollars for the 21-22 and the 22-23 school year. And the actual job description is in your board packet there in front of you.
Dr. Lott, do you mind if I ask one of the principals to kind of tell us what, in their own words, what they see?
And
How
don't
they
be
see
surprised
this
if each
position
school
doing.
doesn't give you a different answer,
And
but
that's
the
all
way
I
it's
want one.
designed.
I only want one.
Okay? Who you gonna pick on tonight?
One of you principals, I mean, how do you see this position helping your students, helping your teachers, helping you and your teachers to help your students?
My vision for middle school, and it maybe is completely different for all 3 schools, we sat around and talked about it for a while, what each of us would need. I need someone that can go in and help my reading and ELA, language arts teachers, focus on increasing Lexile scores. We have tremendous gaps, especially after this year, in our learning. So this person in particular will work with our ELA teachers, make sure that curriculum maps and pacing guides are in place for next year. Also, this person is going to teach a connection class that will target our RTI students, which is our lowest scoring students, Tier 2 and Tier 3. They will have a connection class that completely focuses on those students with a research-based program for reading. So she will teach all 3 grades and focus completely on reading. Now, I do have someone that comes in part-time that will focus on the math, and that person next year will also have a dedicated time in a connection class to focus just on the math part too. And I'm very appreciative for both of those people. Like I said, the gaps, we know they're there already, but especially after COVID is major gaps. So we are thrilled to be able to have somebody that can dedicate their time. Also, this person's going to, in my school, this person's going to be in charge of the RTI process, which is a lot of paperwork that goes through for every child, where you have data analysis. We sit down every 9 weeks and look at every single child and how they've made gains. We talk, parents are invited to those meetings. The whole teacher group is invited to the meetings and sit down and look at, is that child making gains? Do we move them to Tier 3? Or do we move them down? It's very fluid process. If a child is making tremendous gains, then that child would move down to a Tier 2 and come out of that connection class and possibly go to a different connection class, which would be, PE or band or chorus or something. But until that time, that child gets extra help that they need in reading.
And one of the things we thought was important between all 3 schools and Dr. Gunby, Dr. Lyon, and Michael especially, was for these intervention specialists to meet every couple of months and vertically integrate our curriculum across the board, K through 12, and what gains are we seeing, what's working down here, what's working in the middle, what's working at the high school level. So they'll be all 3 working together also across all 3 schools. So that's the one commonality they'll have.
The other thing that I want my instructional specialist to do is to implement, we have always had, or not always, but the past 7 years, 6 or 7 years, we've had where 8th grade could take a high school credit in math. They can take Algebra 1 and get a high school credit in 8th grade. So this next year, this instructional specialist will help me implement that in language arts so that they can get a high school credit in ELA as well in 8th grade. So really excited about that for the kids. So that's on the accelerated end of it. So trying to help, yes.
Is it one person gonna do all this?
I have a lot that I want this person to do, but I will be helping this person. But she, under my guidance, this person will, yes.
Hmm.
So we have a lot we want to get accomplished. So.
Do you want to hear from the other principals?
Sorry, you back up.
Yep.
Go ahead, Ms. Arthur.
We are, my person is gonna work with the lower grades. We already have Megan Goolsby who helps us. She was our distance learning teacher this past year, and she works with first grade and second. But this person is going to work with him with those RTI students, just like Ms. Burke said, the ones that are struggling, trying to catch them early enough so that when by the time they get to 3rd grade, that they are a fluent reader. By doing some of those things that she mentioned, and doing the vertical plan as well. And we're excited to have 2 people to help us because it's a large number of students that need the help.
Any other questions on it?
I would like to ask, I see where it says internal and external could apply for this,
Yes.
correct? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Mhm.
So as far as the, I'm trying to think of what the word, how many have we had, I guess, as far as, has it been a lot of applicants that are looking at this
We've had a
internally
few
and externally?
applicants. I wouldn't say it's been in the 40s, but there wasn't a difficulty finding someone to apply for it.
Okay. Knowing that it could go away in 2 years?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
And every one of them that interviewed for that position were told that up front on purpose, because I didn't want them to say, nobody told us, nobody told us. I made sure all 3 of them, and Michael was in on every one of those interviews, to say, you are in a position or interviewing for a position that'll be gone in 2 years.
Okay.
So if you're a current teacher, we're gonna fill your slot. You're gonna have to look for a spot.
Just want to be clear.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Any other questions on these positions? Okay, we do have to approve these positions before we make them official, so. Need a motion for that?
I'll make a motion that we approve them.
All right, we have a motion to approve the positions as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll second.
We have a second,
Can I-
Mr. Reese?
Can we discuss
No,
that?
yes, you can.
So this is a 2-year only motion?
That's all money,
That's
that's
all
all we
money.
got money for.
I know that, but I want to clarify that.
Yep,
Okay.
that's the way it's presented. That's the way the superintendent is presented.
Okay. Jim didn't say that though.
He said as a superintendent. Okay, any other
Thank you.
discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Unanimous. Next on the agenda is policy for review.
Okay, we have CGK, which is tenure, DFB, which is state aid, which is obviously never enough, DIB, capital assets, part-time reemployment after retirement, GDQ. Now, that one may change, but it's gonna take legislative approval, so if that one comes back in July or August, then you'll understand why, because they're talking about changing that in legislation. JBB is entrance age, and JBCCA, student assignment to schools. And all of those are for review. They are fine as written.
discussion on any of those? Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's reports, informational items.
One of the things that I think everybody is aware of, we provided an opportunity for all of the employees that wanted to, nothing was forced by any means, but if they wanted their COVID test, and Moderna was supplied through Department of Health, and everybody that wanted to got their test taken on the 20, what was it?
Vaccine.
The shot.
Got their vaccine, I think it was the 12th, anyway, we did it in March. The second test is coming this Friday, April 16th. They're gonna start at 1:30 in the front of the auditorium. When they complete everybody at the high school, and the bus drivers are supposed to go to the high school because they can get started first and get back on the bus and do their thing. After they complete the high school, they're going over to the elementary school to complete them. Now, in between that time, unfortunately, our Department of Health nurse, Hillary Daniels, is no longer with the Department of Health. So she wasn't able to administer the test, and I want to give a big thank you to Bryce and Crawford in Brazil, because he's stepping up to provide those vaccines for us. And he definitely needs a lot of accolades and did a huge thing for us, because we were supposed to get some help from Richmond County Department of Health. Trying to set that up on their schedule caused a conflict at every level on our schedule, and it just wasn't fitting. And I was gonna call and cry and say, who do I talk to? Because you know a lot of folks in the health department. And then Bryce called, and it helped us greatly. So I want to again thank him. But it's 1:30 on April 16th is when it starts at the high school for the employees. That'll be the second. And that's all I have for tonight, sir, other than executive session.
Question, did you have a lot of people employed back?
We had quite a few. I think there was a grand total of like 76 or 78, somewhere in that range, counting both schools. And again, it was totally voluntary. So some of us have gone forward and taken the second one earlier than Friday, but there'll be a lot of people that'll be ready to go on Friday. So.
All right, I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion that we go into executive session.
Motion, Mr. Barksdale, second by Mr. Mize. We'll call our meeting back to order. The following have submitted their resignations effective June 8th, and the superintendent recommends that we accept them. And I make a motion that we accept the resignations of Charles Folger, Grace Ashmore, Derek Williams, and Kevin Speed. Okay, have a second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we accept the retirement of Ms. Minnie Stokes effective June 8th, 2021. Second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. Superintendent recommends, and I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Ms. Carol Johnson effective June 8, 2021. Second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? It is recommended, and I make a motion that we accept the resignation of Ms. Angelika Booker at the end of the school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we hire Mr. Doug Huff as physical education teacher and coach for the 2021-2022 school year. He will begin his position April 14th, and the start date of April 14th.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we hire as intervention and instructional specialist for the 2021-2022 school year, Ms. Heather Huff.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Reese. All in favor? It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Mr. Winter Cook as special education inclusion teacher for the 2021-22 school year for the Lincoln County Elementary School. And a second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we hire Ms. Elizabeth Fogarty as the adaptive special education teacher at the elementary school for the 21-22 school year.
Second that motion.
Second by Ms. Barksdale. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Ms. Amanda Sandifer as the intervention and instructional specialist at the elementary school.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reese. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Ms. Katie Hayslip as the 5th grade teacher at the elementary school for 21-22 school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reese. All in favor? It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Chris Knight as special education teacher at the high school for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we move Mr. Charles McDonald to a full-time counselor position at the Lincoln County Middle School.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Ms. Brianna Jenkins as the intervention and instructional specialist for the middle school for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, I make a motion that we hire Ms. Connie Burton as the special education parapro at the Lincoln County Middle School for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? It is recommended, and I make a motion that we move Mr. Pat Lahr from the maintenance supervisor scale to the transportation supervisor scale at position 7, starting at position 7.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Reese. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we hire Ronald Cleveland as substitute custodian for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Second by Mr. Madison. All in favor? Unanimous. It is recommended, and I make a motion that we give all full-time district employees $1,000 stipend and all 49% district employees $490 stipend based on the governor's promise. These funds will be taken from the state and CARES to fund acts.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Barksdale. All in favor? Unanimous. Anything else?
Could you mind stating when they would get that, if you don't mind?
The district is planning to pay those out on April 16th.
Correct.
And that will be a separate check. correct?
Separate check on April 16th, that's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. Hopkins, second by Ms. Barksdale. Thank you.